So I recently saw Godzilla, King of Monsters, and it was not too bad, but also not too great. They definitely learned from their mistakes in 2014, but then they added a whole bunch of new mistakes, so they're still pretty much like there. The biggest problems movies like these face is that they don't know how to balance the human stories with the monster action. In the 2014 movie, there was just too much human stuff, not enough Godzilla, and a lot of people were pissed about that. In this movie, we kind of balanced it out a bit more. However, every time we go to the human story, without any inclusion of the monsters, it's really boring. So the whole point of this movie is to decide if humanity wants to coexist with monsters or not, and nobody can seem to make up their mind. Of course, we start with like this newsreel of people protesting because they don't want the monsters in this world. And I'm so sick of every movie in the past 10 years adding this point of view. It's pointless in a movie, really. And then of course we have the military point of view, which is also pointless because these morons shoot normal bullets at humongous monsters, and it just dumbs down the whole thing about 10,000%. You get a feeling that every character on the screen is a generic discount of a character we already know from a much better movie, and all the while with a dialogue with a lot of mumbo jumbo and jargon about technology and how we're fighting these monsters and what's going on, trying to sound really smart, but in the end it just loses you and it doesn't really hide all the plot holes in this movie. The characters that you think are going to be the main characters, Millie Bobby Brown, O'Shea Jackson Jr., and the guy from Verizon, they are not the main characters, they are minor characters at best. The main characters are Kyle Chandler and Ken Watanabe, and it almost feels like their PR campaign decided that older people would not really sell this movie, let's just sell it to the hot young people, which honestly I find it very offensive for Ken Watanabe. How dare you do that to him? Regardless, they just did a big switcheroo with the characters here, and it doesn't really matter because they're all so boring. They really tried to pull the heartstrings on this one. The main character's kid dies in the first Godzilla attack, and that's supposed to sort of like influence every character's decision. There's not enough emotional material there. It doesn't really matter. And even with this sort of background context in mind, the characters' motivation are nonsensical throughout most of the movie. And there's one point in the movie about 40-ish minutes in, there's a pivotal scene where there's a rescue mission, and Millie Bobby Brown is supposed to want to go with her dad who is rescuing her, but then every character makes kind of like the opposite decision of what you think they'll make without really any context about why they're making that decision. And the scene sort of loses focus, it loses the purpose. Yes, later on you find out why they decided on the things they did, but in that particular moment you just end up feeling like, what? Not to mention that Millie's mom decides to wake up this huge monster and leave dad behind thinking, oh yeah, well I'm sure he'll be okay, he's fine. Also, Millie for the majority of the time is just like this reaction character. She has this sort of neutral face of disappointment all the time. Even when her dad is sort of left to die in the middle of a huge monster fight, she just has like one single tear and just slightly disappointed that things are not going well. It was kind of stupid. And yes, I did mention that there are a lot of plot holes in this movie, and honestly, if we're going to mention all of them, we're going to be here for about 20 minutes, and I'm not going to do that to you. It suffices to say that they just try to make it super complex and interesting, but they just ended up abandoning so many subplots throughout the entire movie. But nothing really is as bad as the writing in this movie. The actual dialogue between people feels forced. It feels like a dialogue that would never happen. There's a scene where Kyle's character decides that he's just going to go and find his daughter, even though he has zero idea where she is, and there's this weird interaction in the middle of a storm where this guy is like, hey, where are you going? And he's like, I'm gonna find my daughter. And he's like, how? And then he's like, she's all I've got, there's nothing else for me to do. And then the other guy goes, good luck. Cool, but how are you actually going to find her? We have no idea where she is. He's just gonna get on a helicopter now and find his daughter. Also, I feel like this Monarch agency, the one that Ken Watanabe is leading, who wants to like save the monsters and let Godzilla take care of everything, has really no purpose in this entire movie. They're supposed to want to keep things under wraps. They're supposed to believe in Godzilla and let him do what he's supposed to do, but they don't do anything except randomly show up at places where they're meant to be because we, the audience, need to see a monster fight. Other than that, they're just flying around and doing pretty much nothing to change or stop certain events. But now let's move on to the things I really did enjoy about the movie, and there were quite a bit. Oh Lord, he coming! 10. Gojira is, yeah, the best thing ever. I'm not gonna lie. They decided on many different ways to show him, and that actually kept the tension levels high and made it mysterious and a little bit scary. And honestly, every visual and every monster was just stunning to look at. This movie has plenty of scenes and cinematography that just blew my mind. It was gorgeous. I even think that they gave Godzilla a really interesting story arc, if you can even believe that. He's not just like the King of Kings who's going to destroy everything. You learn a lot about how long he's been on Earth, about this kind of symbiotic relationship he has with one of the monsters. You know, there's a lot of interesting pieces to that story. I just absolutely love that chunk. He is the best. And like I said, all the other monsters were really cool. I thought the fights were choreographed really interestingly, if you can even call it a choreography. The only thing I thought was kind of like, nah, was when they got too close up to the monsters. Like, it just looked a little too artificial and not as interesting, but from afar, everything looked incredible. So to sum it up, pretty much anything to do with the monsters was really fun, really exciting, and anything to do with the humans was really boring and generic. And I think that's pretty much what everyone expected. I do think the movie's still worth watching. It's a lot of fun to watch it in a big screen, and you won't be disappointed with the kaijus, monsters, the motus, whatever they're called. So yeah, if I really had to rate this movie, I think I would give it like a 7 out of 10. So guys, that was my opinion of Godzilla, King of Monsters. Let me know what you thought of the movie in the comments section down below. Don't forget, you can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook if you want to say hi and if you want to follow and see what I'm doing. That's everything for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give it a like if you liked it and subscribe if you would like to see more, and I will see you on our next movie date. Bye!